Nityananda Priya Dvaita Gadadhara Devasari Gaur Bhaktivedanta Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Priya Dvaita Gadadhara Devasari Gaur Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Srinath ji Jaya Bala Gopal Jaya Srinath ji Jaya Gi Srila Prabhupada ki Santa Koti Vaishnavrinda ki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
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 Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sagara Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarungasya Kripa Sindhu Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavani Paschata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna. Matatis are sitting so far away. Must be scared. So, we're continuing now in this third chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And we've been discussing one principal topic in this chapter. It is a one-word description of this chapter.
The yajnas.
Yagyas. We've been discussing yagyas. Right? And in essence, Krishna is telling us to do our activities, but do it in a detached manner. Detached from the fruits. Meaning sacrifice the work to Krishna. It purifies. The heart becomes purified so that all of the material entanglements and hankerings dissipate. Arjuna asked, what should I do? Renounce or do yajna? And Krishna said, you do your action. Because the nature of the soul is to be active, is to do something. That is the innate nature. So to try to do nothing is very, very difficult. So Krishna spoke that in the 7th verse, he said, on the other hand, if a sincere person tries to control the active senses by the mind and begins karma yoga in Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada adds, without attachment, he is by far superior. That means it is a much superior path. Because otherwise, if we don't and just simply try to renounce our activities before the heart has been purified of all of these material attachments, we're simply a pretender. Oh, I'm showing this great mood of renunciation. But internally in the heart and the mind, we're meditating when I can eat pizza. Though externally I have shown renunciation. And there is no value, and actually it is destructive because one may lead others to follow such false pretenses. So Krishna says, don't be a mityachara, don't be a pretender. You do your duty, you do your action, but you surrender the fruits to me. And by doing so, you'll purify. Purify of what? Material desires. Because all material desires equal misery. But we don't have full faith in that statement. Otherwise, it'd be easy. Anybody has difficulty detaching, renouncing from eating dirt? Anybody has difficulty? No. Because we have faith that eating dirt will lead to misery, no good taste, stomach sickness, bad things. It's so easy. Why easy? Because we have faith, conviction. So as our conviction develops, that material attachments will lead to difficulty. It becomes easy to renounce. But until then, Krishna says you work, and you work as yajna, sacrifice. And ultimately, why is it that we must perform yajna?
It's our duty.
It's our duty.
It's the way.
It's the prescribed way.
To renounce.
It's the prescribed way to renounce.
It's what Krishna asked us.
Yes, that's the best reason. That is the ultimate reason, right? It is what Krishna asks us to do. That is the mood Arjuna says at the end. Krishe vachanam tava. I am now prepared to follow because you said so. I don't need any more explanation. But if we're not yet at that level to accept, which we should, we can dig a little bit further. To do yajna means that I have to sacrifice the fruits of my labor, right? I go to the office, I make some income, and then I should sacrifice means give back to Krishna. in that specific example. When you do an elaborate fire sacrifice, what are we sacrificing? How much income it requires or effort it requires to grow the grains, to bring the ghee, to build the sacrificial arena, to bring the priests and offer them some donations, do all these different things. It takes some facilities. And one is sacrificing them for the pleasure of ultimately Krishna, sometimes with an interim goal. Right? So it's a sacrifice. Now Krishna said in the 12th verse, at the end, but one who enjoys such gifts without offering them to the demigods in return is certainly a thief. Now that's a harsh statement. Why is one considered a thief? Last week, or 2 weeks ago, we discussed 3 weeks ago now, we discussed the need for yajna to all of the different devatas. Right? Anybody remember that discussion? What did we discuss?
Everything is given by Krishna, the air that we breathe and everything, so therefore we have to give back.
Okay. So everything is given by Krishna ultimately. Everything. Even the air we breathe. The food grains we eat, as we'll see in this verse today, we'll discuss. And the demigods, the devatas, are the different administrators who are helping to facilitate all of our experiences. So, though we don't see a bill in our inbox, there is a bill, there is a debt for using the sunlight, the air, all the different facilities in the material world. And thus we must do yajna. But Prabhupada explains in the purport, and Krishna's going to explain very strongly in chapter 7 and 9, that ultimately, how must we satisfy these debts? By doing yajna to Krishna. He says, Bhaktaram yajna tapasam. I am the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices. Because when you satisfy the belly, all limbs of the body are nourished. And on the body of Vishnu, the limbs are the different devatas. To satisfy all the different devatas, you must satisfy the root. But if we don't, Krishna says, you are a thief. And what happens when we steal, when we are a thief? You have to pay for it. Pay for it by? How do we pay for it?
Taking birth again, giving birth.
Birth again. And what happens during that birth?
We may do
Miseries. Why miseries?
Again we'll
get entangled into the same material.
we may downgrade to an animal.
Downgrade to a lower species, we get entangled. But the result of a stealing activity is, what's the reaction? Bad reaction. Suffering. Some difficulties. So a thief is always punished. Not just a reaction, but a bad reaction. And a good action means good reaction. So, Krishna spoke in the 11th and 12th verse about this worship of the different devatas as an interim step to coming to Krishna consciousness. So in verses 14 and 15, we'll see this progressive stage, and we'll discuss next week that. But this week, we're going to discuss this verse 13. And Arjuna, after hearing these two verses, has a thought in his mind. And a good speaker like Krishna knows what is thinking and speaks further to eliminate any what ifs or what abouts. And Arjuna's what if or what abouts is, well, okay, Krishna said in the prior two verses that you can enjoy the facilities of the material world by performing sacrifices. If you do yajnas, you can enjoy all the different benedictions and boons. Right? It says, in charge of the various necessities of life, the demigods, being satisfied by the performance of yajna, will supply all necessities to you. Right? So to enjoy such gifts, you do these yajnas. Makes sense, right? But the question Arjuna may have is, well, I don't want any of these gifts. I'm not looking to enjoy. I just want to avoid this battle. I don't want to fight this war. So do I need to do sacrifice? Must I do yajna still? That can be the thought. Because if you read 11 and 12, well, if I'm not looking for, lots of money and beautiful spouses and children and promotions in the job, and I just not looking for much, do I need to? So Krishna then speaks this verse. And he says, the devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is offered first for sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment verily eat only sin. This is another very strong statement by Krishna. In a prior verse he said, you're a thief if you don't do sacrifice. And now he's saying, even eating foods for personal sense enjoyment is eating sin. So let's read the purport and then we'll discuss. Someone wants to read the purport?
The devotees of the Supreme Lord, or the person who are in Krishna consciousness, are called santas, and they are always in love with Lord, as it is described in Brahma Shamhita. Prema jnana churita bhakti vilochanena sanatana sadvaiva hrida vishu vailokyanti. The santas, being always in compact of love with Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda or Mukunda or Krishna, cannot accept anything without first offering it to Supreme Person. Therefore, such devotees always perform yajnas in different modes of devotional service such as sarvanam, kirtanam, sravanam, archana. And these performances of yajnas keep them all away aloof from all kinds of contamination of sinful association in the material world. Others who prepare the food for self or sense gratification are not only thieves but also the eaters of all kinds of sins. How can a person be happy if he is both a thief and sinful? It is not possible. Therefore, in order for people to become happy in all respects, they must be taught to perform the easy process of Sankirtana Yajna in full Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, there can be no peace or happiness in the world.
And Srila Prabhupada follows up Krishna's strong statement with a very exacting statement. What is the most profound statement that struck you in this purport?
How can you be happy if you are both a thief and
How can you be happy if you are both a
thief and being sinful?
thief? And have we ever thought about that? Think about if that was on the billboard. How can you be happy if you are both a thief and doing sinful activities? There might be a traffic jam. Just thinking and contemplating. That statement is a very powerful statement Prabhupada is making here. Is there any? It's so true. Is it not? How one can be happy? Cannot. It's impossible. So, in Arjuna's mind, he's saying, well, I don't need all these facilities of life. And what is the but that Krishna provides back to Arjuna? But he's actually providing to all of us. You don't do sacrifice just to accumulate millions of dollars and long life and all of these things. Well, what's the most basic of living necessities?
Sacrifice the food, what
To be happy.
No, but what's the basic necessity of life? Food. Can anybody avoid eat? I can avoid acquiring millions of dollars. I can avoid getting the promotion. I can avoid, having children. I can avoid all these different things. I may go to the different devatas for benedictions, right? And thus one may conclude, well, then I don't have to do yajna. I don't have to do sacrifice. So how is Krishna smashing that comment?
Eating food.
You cannot avoid food.
You cannot avoid food. You're eating food. So even the process of eating food must be done as a yajna. Remember, when we spoke last, said yajna is not what we traditionally think of yajna is offering grains into the fire. That is one aspect of yajna. Actually, Krishna consciousness is teaching us, as Prabhupada says, how to have every activity of our life as yajna. It doesn't mean we're going to sit in front of a fire our whole life. No. But how each and every action within this material world is a yajna, which means a sacrifice to Krishna. That is the art that is being taught in this Bhagavad Gita. Because the fire sacrifices, those yajnas, they are not available to us in Kali Yuga. They were available in Treta Yuga. But there are yajnas available to us. We'll discuss in a few minutes. So now, Krishna says that if we eat foods for our sense enjoyment, it is sin. Why?
Because what we have to make is to be liked by Krishna and not liked by us.
Okay. So to avoid it, we have to make foods that are liked by Krishna. But why is eating... I know, I should not eat animals. Right? That's one of the 4 principles, regulator principles. That's... Okay, I get that. I'll avoid that. But if I pick an apple from the tree and I eat it, is there anything wrong with that?
It has to be offered to Krishna.
You have to show gratitude
First
to the
he should
owner.
taste it.
First he should taste it. Why?
The tree is not yours. The fruit is not yours. Sun is not yours. Water is not yours.
Wow, you're saying nothing is mine. You said the tree, you said the fruit, you said the water, you said the sun. Even the soil? Even though it's on my property, my house is I have a deed that says this is my lot line. I own the soil. No. Right? So when I pluck an apple from the tree, if I eat it without first offering to the Lord, what am I eating?
Sin.
Sin. Why?
And steam.
Because it's stealing. It is a thief. Who provided the facilities for that apple? Krishna. Certainly, there's less sin in eating the apple than the chicken or the cow or the fish. But still, Krishna is saying, verily eats only sin. The other angle of vision is that why we don't eat animals? Krishna doesn't eat it. That is the higher level answer. What is the preliminary level answer?
Even the animals are like Krishna's children.
Yeah, Krishna's children. Why? What's residing within them?
Soul.
The soul. There is a soul in each and every living entity, right? And that soul is part and parcel of Krishna. Okay. Well, what about the apple?
The tree has a soul.
tree has a soul. Which means that soul is also part and parcel of Krishna. So one argument that will be made by some is that, well, you're eating an apple that has a soul, and I am eating a chicken that has a soul. So both are killing the soul. Is that correct?
The state of consciousness of that one is less as compared to the other one.
Okay, so the state of consciousness is less, so the degree of sin is less, but nonetheless, they're sinning, right? The degree is less, just like if I steal a piece of bubble gum versus $1 million, both are stealing, but the degree of theft is different, right? So that's your point.
But it's also in that one of the shlokas, Patram Phulam and Pushpam.
Yeah.
So that some says that we can offer to Krishna, then whatever is being offered to Krishna, then we can have that.
Okay.
Actually, that fruits and all, he is providing as a food to all the living entities.
So one discussion can be that Krishna is providing all of these fruits to the living entities for us to live. So we should eat, right? The one flaw in that argument is true, is that then some will also say Krishna has provided all of these animals also for us to eat. Now what? Now what? They're stuck. So there is a sin in also taking an apple. Right? We all agree? Because there's a soul associated with that apple. Just as there's a soul in the chicken or fish. Right? So how can we eat? But we have to eat. And Krishna says in his Bhagavad Gita later, life subsists on life. So we must consume another life form to subsist. Right? We must. So how to eat then in a sin-free way?
Mode of ignorance food, mode of passion food, mode of
Okay.
good food. So these are all comes on good food. So we can take it, but ignorance food is animals we should not take.
Okay, so there are a nice point. In the last section of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna will explain the different foods in the modes of nature. There are foods in the mode of ignorance, foods in the mode of passion, and foods in the mode of goodness. So foods in the mode of ignorance are considered stale, composed, putrid foods, flesh. Foods in the mode of passion, very spicy and pungent foods. Foods in the mode of goodness are very nutritious, healthy, extend the life, juicy foods. But Krishna is saying, prepared for personal sense enjoyment still is eating only sin. So even foods in the mode of goodness, if we eat without offering to Krishna, carries sin. Maybe less sin, as you said, less degree, but still some sin.
Mode of goodness we can offer, mode of ignorance we cannot offer, so that we can escape from there.
There it is. As Mataji said also earlier, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam. Krishna says, you can offer me these 4 things. A fruit, flower, leaf, and water. With love. Then I'll accept it. So how to become free of sin from all of our foods?
By offering to Krishna.
We have to offer to Krishna. So what we can offer to Krishna?
What he has.
What he has.
What he likes. If someone is coming home to your dinner at your home, you'll offer them what they like, what they eat. So why we can't offer whatever we want? Krishna says, this is what I eat, this is what I enjoy. Yes, you may enjoy this, but this is what I eat. So, in order to become free from the reactions of all foodstuffs, we must first offer to Krishna.
So Guruji, people who are eating only sattvic food throughout their lifetime without offering to Lord, so they will also, it's sinful for them.
Yeah. Why is it sinful?
Because they are not offering to.
Because it also is a living entity. And also, it's a thief. If we just pluck an apple from a tree, not giving understanding of who has provisioned and provided the facilities for this apple to grow, thinking it is mine, it is for me to enjoy by myself. That is like me coming into Prabhuji and Mataji's house and enjoying their wonderful facilities of their home, their sofa, TV, kitchen, and saying, you don't enjoy, let me. And then I'm going to walk out. If you go into a hotel and you enjoy the facilities of that hotel and you don't pay, what happens? What happens?
You're a thief.
You're a thief. If you go into the hotel and then you go to the restaurant, Govinda's restaurant, and you enjoy, then you walk out, what happens?
That's what we are doing.
That's what we are doing. That is what we are doing. Yes. And what does Prabhupada say happens when we do that?
You're a thief. You're in sin.
More miseries.
Miseries.
He says, how can a person be happy? How can we be happy? This is a very heavy verse. Very heavy purport. But it makes perfect sense. How can one be happy if they're a thief? Because what happens to a thief? They're punished. They're punished. So, as you've heard me say many times, we are not vegetarians. We are prasaditarians. Must take to the honoring of Krishna Prasad. Because that is the only way to become fully sin-free. Certainly it's better to come from foods in the mode of ignorance to the foods in the mode of passion. And from foods in the mode of passion to the foods in the mode of goodness. That is progressive steps. Wherever we may be, we must make progressive steps. But ultimately, to become fully free, we must come to the stage of only taking Krishna Prasad. Because that is the means to become sin-free. And ultimately becoming sin-free means we'll find peace and happiness. You'll find peace and happiness. Because Prabhupada says, how can a person be happy? It's very logical. So, what does a Krishna conscious person do in the broader perspective? Everything they do is a yajna. Everything is a yajna. And normally when we think of sacrifice, we think I sacrifice means I lose, someone else wins. Right? Between husband and wife, this conversation always happens. I'm sacrificing this for your benefit, and then the wife says, and this goes back and forth. Right? Between children, I'm giving you this toy, I'm sacrificing my enjoyment. What you have given me back? This happens in all aspects of life. Yeah, it happens. Between the employee and the employer, I'm sacrificing my time and you're only giving back something less. Right? But everything in the material world, all yajna, sacrifice in the material world, is the inverted reflection, meaning opposite of what happens in the spiritual world. When we do sacrifice like this to Krishna, who benefits? We benefit. In the material world, when I do sacrifice, the other person, the recipient, benefits. The beneficiary. But in Krishna consciousness, When we do the sacrifice, who benefits? We do. We benefit. Krishna doesn't need the apple from us. Trust me, he has plenty of apples. He has full kalpavriksha's in the spiritual world. But still what he is looking for, what he is hungry for, is the love in that apple that was offered. That is what he's hungry for, thirsty for. And when he tastes that love that is offered in that apple, he reciprocates. He showers so much mercy that the person doing sacrifice achieves incomprehensible happiness and peace. So this sacrifice is not an austerity meant to, toughen us up and give us the hardships to get to some other goal. No. It is meant for our own enjoy. It is the only way to find happiness. The only way to find happiness is to stop our thieving mentality. It's very strong. It's very heavy. And so, now let's bring it back to maybe some practical. What should be our mission? Make progressive steps. Make progressive steps to this path. But we should at least know. Just like a child, if they're learning 2 plus 2, you cannot explain to them necessarily calculus yet. But they should know they have to progress to some higher stages of math. They may not be ready for it yet. So, if this feels too heavy, it is okay. It is natural. But we should know this is the consequence. This is the path. And ultimately, by taking to the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, the teachings Krishna is giving us in the Bhagavad Gita, by the mercy of Guru Parampara, we can very quickly achieve this sin-free life. Otherwise, there is no happiness. So, again, everything we do in our day-to-day life should be a sacrifice to Krishna. And how to do? That's what we'll continue discussing. Any comments or questions?
I have a comment too. It just reminded me of something Amrita have asked us. Because you're talking about stealing and Krishna is atma-karanat. Amrit came to me and asked do we have any shops in spiritual world? I was like, that's too complicated question for me. Ask Amma. And then he went and asked her, do you have any shop in spiritual world? She said what do you want to buy? He said, I want to buy butter. We was like, why? Because Krishna mom is not giving enough butter to him, so he's stealing. I don't want him to steal, so I'll buy butter for him and give it to him. I was like, that's beyond what I can think.
It's very, very sweet. But that is the mood, of giving to Krishna.
When I was preparing breakfast, he said, I just took it and put it in the plate. Did you offer it? That was his first question. I said, yesterday I offered this down, so I'm putting it directly today. He said, oh, okay. He's always conscious about that. Did you offer it?
He has understood this verse.
Yeah.
That is good. That's why we teach our children this early age. Because it creates a consciousness that will carry forward.
It's easy to teach when they are young, but if they are grown-ups, it is very difficult to
Very difficult. Very difficult. As they grow, we sometimes, they're young and let them do this, that. While they're young, it's easy. As it gets older, very, very difficult. Very, very difficult. So that's a nice, thank you.
Actually, the root cause is this class.
Huh?
The cause of this, thing is like, even we discussed this yesterday, is because of the kids class.
Yeah.
It's seated there, so it's coming from there
I
actually.
think he is influenced by three Nityas.
Prabhupada wanted this, teaching the children early for this reason. If you bring them up, they can learn these Vedic principles very easily. That's the only means to perfection of life. Any other questions?
I have two questions.
Yes.
The first one is why is this expectation, Prabhu? Maybe I'm wrong also. Is it an unconditional love? Doesn't mean that you need to offer something. How do we interpret this, Prabhu?
Say the question again.
Why is this expectation is there that something we need to offer and then only eat it? It's like what Mataji was saying, that it's a nature which is providing it to you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the God only is approving that yes, you can take this, but we still want to do this reversal. So is maybe I don't know whether I'm asking the right question, but just want to understand a little bit more.
Yeah. So again, it's not necessarily the expectation that Krishna is saying, but it is the law of nature, meaning it is the laws of the world, that if you want to avoid this consequence, you must do this. But Krishna doesn't say you must offer everything to me. That's not what he said. He said, if you want Arjuna to find peace and happiness, this is what you need to do. The choice is yours. Everyone has free will. Krishna doesn't say you have to offer this to me. He says, but if you want to find peace and happiness, you must avoid sinful activities, because no one can be happy by thieving and stealing. So this is how you do it. And when you offer to me the apple, don't worry, I'm leaving the apple for you. It's not like you're not going to enjoy the apple. Also, when we do sacrifice in the material world, that doesn't happen. But spiritual sacrifice, that happens. Right? So it's not the expectation. Just like, you're raising your daughter. Right? They're living under the shelter and facilities that you and Mataji are providing. Right? If she doesn't acknowledge the facilities, you'll still provide. Will you not?
Mm-hmm.
You'll still provide. So Krishna is providing the apple to the atheist and the spiritualist. To both he is providing in nature the facilities. But what pleases you most? When she acknowledges it. You don't force her. Did you say thank you for the dinner? But what do? We teach them to say thank you. Why? For their own purification of their conscience, to develop the character of gratitude. We teach them. Right? In this way. So similarly, Krishna is teaching us the ultimate process to find this happiness. But remember, if we don't offer, that is also our free will. But we also have then the consequence. Okay? So he's not saying that this is a mandate. I offered it, I provided it, now you use it in my service. He's telling his best friend that that's what he should do if he wants to become free from the emotional state he was in chapter 1. Remember, what was Arjuna's condition in chapter 1?
Confused.
Fearful, stressful, confused, anxiety, no clear direction. Okay? If you want to become calm, peaceful, happy, clear, this is what you do. And then Krishna will end the Bhagavad Gita. I've told you everything. Now it's up to you to decide what to do. And Arjuna says, I am now prepared to follow. Having heard everything, I am prepared to follow. So Krishna will not force us to do it.
just looking into the situation, right? For like 99.999, how many percentage of the population we have? Rarely, even when I was brought up in this,
Yeah, we don't do it.
we never do it, but we do it only during the functions, that time we do it, but not in an everyday cycle of
Yeah.
So this statement is very strong here.
Very strong.
But
We'll
then
follow
people to
everything in the
accept.
festivals. That day we'll wake up early, we'll have a head bath, we'll do the namas. Only festivals we'll do that.
Guruji, we don't offer but while eating they say pray. So that we pray. So whether that is correct, that is being followed hopefully.
It is better than not. In the Christian faith, we have this saying, grace. Thank you, my Holy Father, for providing the foods we're about to take. And they have a nice, that's better, because you're acknowledging who is providing this. This concept of offering foods is universal. But ultimately, we should offer it if somebody comes to your house and he says, you're showing that I'm eating. Yes, you enjoy too while I eat. How is that? No, we make them a nice plate and we offer to them. Krishna says do the same thing. Make a nice plate and offer. But acknowledging it at least is a progressive step. But because 99.99% are not following, that is why we see the condition of society. This was not always the case. In Satyuga, everyone was following. Everyone was doing. And why the condition of life was so nice then? Because there was no sinful reactions. Right? When Lord Ram was ruling, he had this one situation that anyone in the kingdom could come directly to him and express any kind of grievance. Anything they wanted to resolve. Open door policy he had. Any ruler today has such a policy? So you might imagine, boy, there must have been long lines. No one was coming to express grievances. Why?
There's no good.
Everyone was following this system, the Vedic system, and thus everybody was peaceful and happy. So the fact that today no one is following, or it's just very few are following, that was not always the case. In actuality, if we look at the cycle, the longest, most extensive period is Satyuga, then Treta Yuga, then Dwapara Yuga, and now Kali Yuga. This is the smallest, but it is all we see today. Right? So this nature is there predominant for much of the cycle. But in today, as you said, and that is why we see everything around us in such a degraded state. So Prabhupada says, therefore, in order for people to become happy in all respects, they must be taught to perform the easy process of Sankirtana Yajna, the ultimate Yajna. You had a question about that too?
You can go. I'll ask.
In this process, we don't recommend offering food to Krishna cooked by someone else. Like not devotees, but someone else. Like we get sometimes
Non-devotees.
non-devotees. We get some snacks, but still eating the snacks which we get from outside temple. So, is that okay if we could offer that to Krishna before having, or it's not recommended at all?
Yeah, these are like what we call sequential concessions. So yeah, it's better you offer it, and there are different schools of thought. Some take a very kind of hard line on it, and some take a more flexible line, and each has to choose their own path. Some will say that, take the example of boxed cereal. Can you offer that to, Krishna? If not Krishna, can you offer to, Gaura-Nitai, that are more forgiving? If not, can you offer to Prabhupada? Some will say, why would you offer to Prabhupada? He would never eat it. just because you want to eat it, you want to. Some will say that. Others will say, Prabhupada knows, and Gauranitai knows, we're not yet capable of getting to that level. So, out of their compassion and love and mercy, they'll tolerate, though it's a concession. So, where you want to be in the spectrum is a little bit of an independent choice.
So that part is actually not like a yogurt for kids, cereal for kids, and banana chips, and so many bars. So there are actually not one or two things, but there are lots.
Yeah, so you do the best you can.
We also need to take into consideration of our lifestyle, like, if making prasadam is causing, like, I don't know, like, if it's more time consuming and if it's bothering, like, other activities should be worked on.
Yeah, you have to be practical. It is not impractical to offer everything to Krishna, though. But, sometimes prasadam becomes, because I want to eat certain ways, then it becomes difficult. Simple prasadam is relatively always available.
What do you recommend for this? Is good to offer to Gauranitai or not? Like whatever you said, right? Because we need some guidance.
Your approach.
We need some guidance.
Let me think about it.
He said he'll think about it.
You had a question?
Yeah. So we always talk about fruits, water, and such. So how does grains and other life forms, like plants, come into picture?
So how to know what to offer to Krishna? Because he said fruit, flower, leaf, and water, right?
Yeah.
So he gave the high level, and that is why we have to follow and see, based on devotees who know. So we see what Mother Yashoda cooked for Krishna. Mother Yashoda would know what Krishna wants to eat.
Yeah.
Of course, she was mother. So what she fed him? I don't know. Where is it contained? In the scriptures. In Srimad Bhagavatam. In other scriptures. It's explained what Krishna ate. How he ate his lunch.
Okay.
What he ate. Sweet rice. He ate yogurt rice. He ate rasgulla. He had in the anukut of Govardhan, there were pakoras and dals and rice and sabji. All the things we eat, we're eating because that is the traditional foods Krishna ate. Right? So we come to know, and there are different scriptures like I'm forgetting the name of the book that Srila Sanatana Goswami wrote. And he gives many details of like certain vegetables. There are even certain like dals we should not eat. There's some more finer details are there also. How to know? We have to follow Guru Parampara, and they explain to us what we can eat and what we cannot eat.
Yeah, actually this question I had also discussed in like inner circle of like students. And we had got like some different interpretation, so now it's good to know like the source.
Yeah, it has to come from scripture and Guru Parampara, what can be offered, what cannot be offered, what we can eat, what we cannot eat. Because patram pusham phalam toyam is a general statement. Then the details come in there. Right?
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to add one more comment. Like you were talking about how even Christianity follows like offering. Even like Muslims, like a lot of Muslims, they are aware of the fact that like prasadam and like the most thing is like one of my friend he won't touch if it is prasadam. If it is anything else, he will like. They are like very conscious of the fact that we should not eat prasadam. Because like they know like the power of what power that prasadam can do to them. So I asked him like why you're not touching prasadam. He said that mosque they tell him that like not to touch it, that's like a sin for us. Because I asked him how it becomes sin. They don't know, they've just been brainwashed. But I know that they know the powerful thing of prasadam.
Prabhupada started his whole movement on prasadam. When he was preaching to the early followers, they had no background, no culture, nothing. And so what he did, he just filled them with prasadam. Then the holy names, then philosophy. After they became purified by prasadam, came philosophy. Prasadam is hugely potent. Hugely potent. We've all benefited from prasadam, even if we don't realize it. That is the very potent, because it is direct mercy of Krishna. The taste that we enjoy in prasadam contains the saliva of Krishna. Whether we want to believe it or not, it is a fact. It contains the saliva of Krishna. This is direct mercy we are bringing into our consciousness. So potent. So,
one more question. We have the prasadam prayer when we offer. A lot of times we don't consciously we take food. We just do it mechanically. At least I am like that. Because of the time and rush and everything. Say the prasadam prayer and then wait for 5 minutes. Would that still be considered as offering? And
Krishna appreciates the effort. But the more consciousness we put into it, the better. So if you go to the level of how offerings are done in the temple, right? The plates come, the flute is removed from Krishna's hand. Why? You cannot eat with a flute in your hands. Nice areas cleaned first. Then you put some achman to purify. You put the plate down. Then cushions are come and sit. You adjust the plate such that if you're seated on the cushion, you would, like you were seated, how you would like to see the items. The plate is arranged in a way with the sabjis on one side, the chapati in the middle, the rice here next to the dal. It's not just thrown on a plate. There's consciousness. Then in more elaborate forms of worship, then you wash the feet of Krishna. Before the Vedic custom, before you take prasad, you wash the feet. Then you offer achman to Krishna, because he's about to take prasadam. Then with a cloth you wipe the mouth. After taking achman, you wipe the mouth. Then you purify everything. Then you chant the mantras. And you invite them to sit. Then you don't invite just them to sit. Then you do achman to all of the different associates of Krishna who perform pastimes while Krishna and Srimati Radharani are eating. The gopis are singing, narrating different bhajans. Someone is offering chamar. Someone is moving a flower around to scent the air. Someone is reciting the glories in this way, providing some dinner time entertainment. And so in the offering you invite all of these other associates to also participate. And then you leave. Why you leave? So they can enjoy. And while you leave, the pujari will chant their Gayatri mantra. And on the Gayatri, while they're chanting, they're meditating on how Krishna will be enjoying. He'll be observing that Krishna must be taking the chapati, mixing it with this sabji, putting the rice and all. They're meditating on the different foodstuffs that we're offering. Not, oh wait, the plate comes back and I can fill my box. No.
That's totally unconscious.
They're meditating how Krishna is enjoying the different foodstuffs. Then they come back. They ring the bell. They offer achman again. And a second achman. Wipe mouth. Invite the Lord back onto the altar. Put the food back. Then what? Then they take the offering and they offer it to Guru, Parampara, and all the associates. They'll honor first Mahaprasadam. After Guru and Guru Parampara and all the associates have taken, then we take the plate. So, obviously, in the hustle bustle of our day-to-day life, that may not manifest. But you can see that the more consciousness we put in to that process of offering, the more realization we have, I am actually offering something Krishna. I still remember when I was in Vrindavan last time and my mother asked me to do the offering, and I put the plate down, but I was in a little bit of hurry. And then she looked at it, she said, "You messed up the plate." Because the chapati was on this side, but her Lord Jagannath is on that side, so I did not turn the plate. But you can see, like, we should be thoughtful. Right? We should be conscious of what we are doing. So even in the moments of quick offerings, our consciousness can still be there. My Lord, I'm sorry that I am rushing because I have this, that. But if the thought is there, and when we have time, we can sit and do the offering a little bit more detailed, a little bit more precise, when it's available to us, when we have the facilities to do so. And when the times are not available, we should at least be conscious that I'm shortcutting what is the intent. So, one step you can make, of all the things I discussed, when you offer bhoga to the Lord, after you offer the bhoga to the Lord, you simply connect your hands and offer to Guru, Srila Prabhupada. Just wait even 10 seconds, 30 seconds, whatever you can. Then take. Just that simple process of offering. How many of us would like to offer something to Krishna and then to Srila Prabhupada or Guru? I'd love to do it. Do it. Offer it first. Then take their maha. Now you're getting maha. Very important. That's one small thing you can add to whatever you're doing now. And you'll see. Again, and then slowly you can add, and we can discuss in more detail, more elaborate, how the offerings are done. You had a question?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to add one experience I had. So I was traveling to one of the Japa retreats, and there Romapada Maharaj was there. So after he used to finish his meal, he used to have something left. So that when that plate used to come, many devotees used to wait for his plate to come. Only then they would have. So everyone used to have little. So far I had just seen that concept in offering it to deities, but looking at performing in such a way, it was kind of very nice experience to see the consciousness of devotees. Yeah.
And we can have that every day. Honest, there's no difference. We perceive a difference, but that can be had every day. You see, devotees will fight and wrestle and tussle for maha, but that maha is available every day if we take our offerings and first offer to Guru. It's there for us. Non-different. That is a nice exhibition of the love and the understanding of the potency of prasad.
Okay. One last
Yeah.
question.
Yes.
So probably you told that in Bhagavatam it is mentioned what Krishna used to eat. So are there any descriptions of anyone eating flesh as well, other than Rakshasas?
Krishna never took. Some will say Lord Ram did in the forest. It's all bogus. Remember one thing. Krishna doesn't need to eat anything. Some would say in the forest there was nothing available to build the strength to fight. He, as a 7-day-old child, he killed a giant demon Putana. What nutrition he had, what exercises he had done. That is our concocted mind bringing our understanding to Krishna.
Prabhu, I have one question. I think he asked this last week, but I want to ask again. So in the previous text 12, I'm taking this. For example, the meat eaters are recommended to worship the goddess Kali, the ghastly form of material nature, and before the goddess, the sacrifice of the animal is recommended. So just want to understand this.
Yeah. So in the Vedas, there are different sacrifices based on one's level of consciousness, and there's a prescribed sacrifice in the process of one who is consuming flesh, one who cannot abstain from consuming flesh. There's actually a process by which one can do that, and I think I explained it in the seminar, that if one wants to eat flesh, they must go through a very arduous process to do it. And the goal of that process is to purify us from doing it, not as a sanction of it. And what is that process? If you want to eat flesh, you can only eat goat. But you cannot eat goat whenever you want. You can only eat it on the Amavas day. And the goat must be killed in the temple of Goddess Kali. But not killed by anyone. If you want to eat, you have to kill. And you have to do it in the middle of the night so that no one will hear the screams and squeals of the goat. Not only you have to do it, you have to do it with your own hands. And not only you have to do it with your own hands in the middle of the night in the Goddess of Kali's temple, you have to do it not from the back but from the front, looking into the eyes of the goat. And not only that, while you are cutting the throat, you have to chant one mantra into the ear of the goat. And if you understood that mantra, you would never do it again. And you know what that mantra is? I am doing to you, I give you permission to do to me next. Then you eat. Why it's there? To bring us to the point of, just like, the government. If they cannot stop certain activities, what they do? They put them under heavy regulation in certain areas to not create disturbances elsewhere. If they cannot stop people from intoxicating, they create these certain areas in which you can do it. They don't want you to do it. But if you cannot, better to do that and keep it in a contained manner, in a regulated, restricted manner, than to have it go. So that sacrifice that Prabhupada is referring to is that sacrifice. And again, it is a process that's meant to purify, to get beyond it. We cannot consume flesh indiscriminately. And there are sacrifices in the Vedas about animal sacrifices, horse sacrifices. And ultimately, why Lord Buddha had to come? Because these so-called followers of the Vedas, these Brahmanas, had completely been adulterating, and they had taken all of these sacrifices and were performing them without any knowledge, any understanding. There was so much slaughter happening that the gutters were filled with blood in the holy villages. Just how bad. So Lord Buddha came, an incarnation of Krishna, and he said, stop all of this. And he completely disbanded the whole Vedas. Why? Simply to stop this illegitimate sacrifice.
Isn't why specifically Kali Prabhu? Like, is it also
That's
part of the.
she's part of the performing that service, accepting that service.
Oh,
So that is why. Okay. So we'll chant. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Yeah.